this video, we'll be comparing and seeing how similar this vintage Univox Phase II Hi Flier is to this vintage Epiphone ET270. Two Nirvana guitars that are completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum era-wise, but I believe they have a lot more in common than one would initially think. Before we get into it, there are several people I need to shout out and give credit to. It pains me to say it, but this beautiful Hi Flier is not mine. It's my friend Tor's, and he's graciously letting me borrow it for a little while so I can create videos like this with it. Thank you so much, Tor, for your generosity and your trust. You are amazing. Next, I wouldn't even be doing this experiment if it wasn't for the inspiration I got from my two Nirvana tone YouTube brothers. JQ put out an excellent video on his Epiphone ET270. In it, he presented that this Epiphone model actually has a lot in common with Univox Hi Fliers. Both of these models were actually made in the same factory in Japan in the same time period, so it would make a lot of sense if they shared some similarities. What struck me the most from his video was learning that these pickups might actually all be the same or very similar pickups. It was that video that inspired me to tune down my Epiphone a half step to try to get some Utero tones, and it was scary how close it got to rape me, which is why I used that guitar in that cover. Thank you, JQ, for pointing this out. I also need to thank Aaron Rash for putting out that mind-blowing video where he showed that a Univox Phase II Hi Flier is capable of recreating many Utero tones nearly perfectly. Seeing his video inspired me and gave me even more motivation to see how close an ET270 can really get to a Phase II Hi Flier. Because on paper, if these pickups are the same or super similar, then an ET270 should be able to nail a bunch of Unutro tones, right? I suspect if you're here on my channel and watching these videos that you're well aware of the brilliant work that both JQ and Aaron have done, but if you're not, both of their channels will be linked in my video description so you can check them out. Thank you both to JQ and to Aaron for the amazing videos and for the inspiration for this experiment. So let's get right to the sounds. To make sure that the playing field is even, both guitars will be played through the same exact setup and settings. Settings will be shown on the screen as they are being used. For cleans, I think they are both pretty damn near indistinguishable when it comes to full-on strumming. But when playing the individual notes a little slower, then the subtle differences become more apparent. The Univox has more high-end and more jangliness, for lack of a better term, while the Epiphone has definitely a thicker layer of low-end. Add in distortion and this difference becomes more pronounced. It becomes personal preference at this point, but I think that the ET270 having more definition in the bass and low mids really gives it a lot more dimension and depth overall. When I hear these two back to back on distortion, I almost view the Univox as being two-dimensional and the ET270 as being 3D. This is not a slight on the Hi Flier by any means because it sounds amazing, and at this point we are splitting hairs because of how similar they are. I just love the way the Epiphone feedbacks like that. I've lost track of how many videos I've said this in, but I seriously think the ET270 is the most underrated Nirvana guitar and that the pickups in it are super special. I think this experiment just adds on to that argument because while it's of course most suited for live bleach tones and smart session tones, tune it down a half step and you're 90% of the way there for a bunch of Unutro sounds. I honestly think that in a full band mix and after EQ that these two guitars have the potential to sound nearly identical, especially once you start to layer on the effects for the more chaotic side of Unutro. Keep in mind again that the settings for everything you're hearing is exactly the same for both guitars. Tweaking it so either the Hi Flier has more low mids or the ET270 has more treble would get them even closer to each other. My favorite thing to play on this Hi Flier easily is All Apologies. It's a super warm and satisfying single coil neck tone. It's a very distinct and specific single coil sound, and guess what? Both of these guitars can get you there. So conclusion, I don't think these pickups are identical, but I do believe that they are very similar. This is the read I got on my multimeter for both pickups, especially when you take into consideration all the other variables here like the scale length, the different types of wood, how the bridges are different, among many other things. Perhaps putting the Hi Flier pickups into the Epiphone and vice versa would still get us the same results we heard here because of those variables. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer and why. Is it the Hi Flier because it's more faithful to the sound of the Utero record? Or is it the Epiphone because it's basically just a beefier version of that sound? Either way, at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that these are two amazing guitars, and these sets of single coils are absolutely incredible. Heart-shaped box is the last example I'm going to leave you with. I believe this is the one that most shows the differences in these two guitars. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra special shout out to my Patreon supporters. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nirvana Guitars, and check out my other Nirvana gear videos right here on YouTube.